So James asked on YouTube, which New Zealand mobile phone network is the most reliable in terms of getting a good signal? All right, so that is a question that we actually get really often because, well, New Zealand has a very uneven coverage, right? So before I even start talking about all the different type of, different network that we have and their coverage and everything, the first thing I want to point out is that all of them we claim to cover 98 or 99% of the places where Kiwis live and play, right? So Kiwis as New Zealander, right? Not the animal. So Kiwis live and play mostly in cities, right? And there are only a handful of cities and a handful of places where people live. And you figure out that there's a lot of stretches of New Zealand which have not that many people there. And that's kind of the great way for many phone network to kind of be like, you know what, we cover, a lot of places, but it's a lot of places where there are people. So if you're planning to do some hikes or even staying in some more remote areas on the west coast, there is a lovely town called Karamea, which has which has some beautiful opera arches, which is definitely worth visiting. It's amazing, but there are 20 people living there, maybe 30. So you kind of just grab that from the map, and that's very easy for all those phone networks. You kind of claim that they still cover 98 or 99% of something, but it's 98 or 99% of places where people live and play. And just keeping in mind that half the population is already in Auckland, it's already pretty good to kind of cover half the territory right here when you actually just use this terminology. So I just wanted to put that out straight away, just to kind of make it clear that you're not going to have coverage everywhere in New Zealand, even if there is a massive label saying 99% coverage or anything like that. Just look at the small lines right here. So yeah, just want to get started with this one because it's just something that caught me off guard when I arrived in New Zealand, and they still do it to this day, which is quite crazy. Now, for the phone networks in New Zealand, there are 3 brands, right, Laura?
Yeah, so we have 2 Degrees, Vodafone, and Spark. They're the main 3 ones, but that doesn't mean they're the only sort of networks that you can join. There are other named networks as well. For instance, Skinny and Warehouse Mobile.
Just want to point out, so that's the 3 networks that you have, but that's not the brand of mobile phone you can of subscription you can be doing. The other brands that you're going to hear, they are using those 3 networks. So the actual physical network, that's those 3 ones.
Yeah, exactly. Just what he said. Continue.
Oh, okay. So there are 3 main networks, right? So as Laura said, that's 2 Degrees, that's the light turquoise blue one, Vodafone, the bright red one, and Spark, which never seem to find a color for themselves. So they're sometimes purple, they're sometimes orange, they change colors all the time. So that's the 3 different networks. Now, there are also some different phone companies that you'll be able to subscribe. And to be fair, if you look at the article that we're going to link in the description below, where we compare all the phone networks in New Zealand, you will find that we talk about other brands, and we actually recommend some other brands. So there are Warehouse Mobile, there is a brand called Skinny as well. So there is plenty of other ones. We actually use, for our own phones, we're using Skinny, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So now for the actual phone network, from worst to best, it goes 2 Degrees, Vodafone, and Spark, right? 2 Degrees doesn't have an amazing coverage around the country. They very often have to use other companies' tower to try to relay some network. This is going to be the company where you're going to have the least even coverage around the country, and when you're going to get some places, you may get frustrated and just not have any coverage. They brand themselves actually being the cheapest, but they are actually not if you compare the prices, and we link to an article below where we actually compare all the different plans and all the different prices. But the way they get customers, especially travelers, is that they offer free SIM cards. But anything that comes free always comes a little bit with a catch, and that's what the 2 Degree phone network does. It gives you a free SIM card, but then after it's not that cheap and it's not that great. But you can pick up a free SIM card at the airport. It's usually with this Arrival magazine, and yeah, you know, the SIM card is free, but you still have to pay for the calls and everything like that. The SIM card is never more than like $4. Very often it's $1. So I don't think it's I don't think it's worth going for a free nothing. Basically, a SIM card is worth nothing to not be on the best network. So I just want to point this one out. The second one is Vodafone. So Vodafone and Spark are the two kind of best ones. They both have a really decent coverage, and it will depend on selected areas. You will have coverage with Vodafone, but not with Spark. And some other areas you're going to have coverage with Spark and without Vodafone's. And you can't really rely on their map to be very accurate to know where they cover. Their coverage map on their website is just appalling. So I've tried to prepare for this question. I've tried to look at those maps and everything, and it was very, very hard. It's just kind of like by experience. So very often you're going to actually have some locals that are going to tell you, oh yeah, are you with Vodafone? Yeah. So you can have coverage here. It just doesn't work. Like, okay, well, they just know it, and that's basically it. So that's the two like kind of main network. Now, from our experience between Vodafone and Spark, we find that the internet gets much faster with Spark. It's based on not much data at all. It's just really kind of how we find it out. We've been with both, and we use them both, and that's what we've figured out. And the Spark network actually is quite handy because there is a brand called Skinny that use the Spark network, and they sell kind of a prepaid plan much cheaper than what you usually get with the name brand. So I think with Skinny at the moment you can get unlimited call and text and 1.5 gigabytes of data for like $26 a month, and it's prepaid. So it's actually I think it's $16 a month, and it's prepaid. So that means that you buy a voucher like $20, you put it on your phone. And then after you buy this little combo, which lasts 1 month, and it costs you only $16, and you have no contract and nothing. It's so handy. Now, the little caveat right here is that the SIM card doesn't work with every single phone because they use a slightly different network.
Yeah, so if you're bringing a phone from home, then you do need to check whether the phone actually works in New Zealand. And we do have a really handy article on BackpackerGuide.NZ, which actually goes through a process of how you can actually check if your phone from home works in New Zealand. And if it does, it means it can usually work with any of the different SIM cards in New Zealand. But first of all, if your phone's not going to work in New Zealand, then you are going to have to buy a local phone. And like Robin said, that there's some phones that are, locked to certain networks, but other ones can be open. So yeah, once you arrive in New Zealand, it might just be best to buy yourself a phone, like a cheap phone just for your trip, along with the SIM cards. Basically get the sort of package deal where you then know that the local New Zealand SIM card is going to work with the phone that you've just purchased. So yeah, that's a good way of doing things, and you'll definitely need to have, if you are wanting to make local calls in New Zealand, it is best to actually have a local phone number yourself. People don't usually want to speak to people that like do roaming charges and stuff from overseas. So yeah. Anything else you want to add to that?
No. So basically, you do the test. You know if your phone is going to be working, but for some people that come to New Zealand for a little bit longer, not just for about a month, but if you come for more than a month, it might be worth actually getting yourself one of those cheap dumb phones, because they're really easy to set up, they're really easy to use, and they cost like $20 or $30. Yeah. And so if you want to consider that, because also what I like about those phones is that first they have a much longer battery life than our smartphone and everything. This lasts for a day, right? You take one of those dumb phones, it lasts for a week. Yeah. So that's really handy. I really love that when I travel. And the other thing is that when we go for a hike or when we do anything else, and like anything a bit epic, and you kind of like, oh shit, I don't want to destroy my phone or anything like that. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I can destroy my phone at $20. I can destroy one a month. It doesn't. Yeah, it's never going to amount to that.
Yeah, we've seen so many people that have brought their the latest Samsung Galaxy phone, and you know how expensive they are, and you do something a little bit more adventurous than what you're used to back home, like caving, or you just have your. When I say caving, just doing like a little bit of like rummaging in some of the free caves around New Zealand. You have your phone in your pocket, it can easily fall out because they're so big anyway, and then that's pretty much it. It just cracks and breaks. So yeah, it's definitely with the amount of the amount of actual adventure activities that people do in New Zealand, because that's what a lot of people come to New Zealand for. It's probably better to have a phone that you don't care that much about.
So those are our tips and the best networks in New Zealand as well. We have plenty of links for you guys in the description below with some of the best networks in New Zealand, how to choose your prepaid plan, and also how to test to see if your phone is going to be working in New Zealand. So everything is in the link in the description below. You just have to scroll down a little bit, click on the little arrow to open the description, and you'll find everything right on the top right for you. If you find that useful, you can click like and you can subscribe to us. It always helps us a lot. You know, we put a lot of work into those videos, and on top of that, you'll be notified next time we're live, which is quite awesome. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this one.